Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to introduce you to your host today, Davon Harris, and welcome to the Happy Room. Happy Room. Come on, join us today. We're gonna say it's the name. Happy Room.
So, peoples, welcome to Happy Room. This is a podcast where we will be discussing overcoming adversity that looks different from many different people. Gathered here with me today are two of my classmates. All three of us are law students. I'm Davon Harris. I am an ex-con. I have an extensive history in social work, and I'm a third-year law student in my last semester. To the right of me is
Abari Osu. I am a third year law student as well, and I also have an education background. This is my 17th year as a school teacher, New York City public school teacher, with concentration in special education.
And my name's Annie O'Connell, and I'm a first year law student at Brooklyn. And I've done a lot of work in social justice, and I'm also formerly incarcerated.
great. So, we're just going to talk about our paths to law school and just being professionals and what does that look like. The goal of this conversation is to just show people that a law student, a professional, someone who ascends in this social hierarchy does not have to look the traditional way, right? All three of us are from different backgrounds and we all have made it to the same place, right? So you can start off. I guess the first question I ask is, let's talk about our upbringings, right, and the environments that shape the decisions that we made. So, you want to take a lead on that?
Sure. So, my upbringing is quite interesting. My parents are, I'm second generation American. My parents are from Nigeria, which is in West Africa. I was born on Long Island, but went back to Nigeria as a toddler. And my early childhood memories are from Nigeria. I came back to the United States when I was 8 years old, in the fourth grade. We moved to Springfield Gardens in Queens, and then from there to Jamaica. I kind of had a little bit of an experience of, the hood is in a way because our house was located between the 40 projects and the Baisley projects. And it was rough growing up. My parents tried to keep my siblings and I off the streets and really emphasized education. Every Saturday morning, my dad would um, talk to us about the importance of understanding our culture, um, being grounded, and kind of just focusing on school. I wanted to go into law school. I wanted to be a lawyer. But when I got to college, I didn't get a high enough score on the LSAT my senior year. But luckily for me, I had majored in education. So when I didn't get into law school, I actually got a 138 on my first LSAT. And I never bothered to touch the exam again, because I was so discouraged. I was always really good at reading and, writing. So I was like, oh, okay, law school admissions test is going to be something easy. I don't really need to study for it. And I went in cold turkey and bombed the LSAT. And I was so discouraged, especially with the logic games. Like, you can't take the logic, like, there's no way. But so I was like, if this is what it is, I'm not going to bother. But because I majored in education, I was able to get a job as a teacher upon graduation. This was back in 2007. And I taught all the way up until I still work in the education field. But when COVID happened, schools closed, and I had nothing but time to study because everyone was home during COVID. Learning was remote, and I was pretty much in front of a computer all day. So after teaching remotely, I would log in and get tutored for the LSAT with my Kaplan tutor, and I was able to get a high enough score to get into Brooklyn Law School because law school was still a dream of mine that I wanted to accomplish. And here I am. So that's my story.
That's interesting. That's crazy. I studied with Kaplan, so I'm curious, like, what was like the I guess the motivation, like what made you get the courage to take the LSAT again after so many years of being out of law school, of not pursuing law school?
It's I guess it's one of those things where it like I don't know if it's a personality trait of mine or just because it was just something that I've always wanted to do, and I would write my dreams down, and I had it on paper that I was going to be go to law school. And ever since I was little, my dad, because I would always talk myself out of everything,
Yeah.
right? I was my biggest self advocate, can always defend myself, even defend others. So my dad was like, you know what, Ebby, you are going to, like, you're a lawyer. So, and I'm the type of person, if I get encouraged to do something and and I believe it because I think I can do it, I go for it. And I always felt like, um, if I didn't go to law school, it would be something that I really wanted to do that I didn't accomplish.
Yeah.
So the fact that I did it is um, makes me feel good, or the fact that I'm doing it makes me feel good. This way, I don't feel like there's something that I wanted to do that I didn't do. If that makes any sense.
Nah, I could relate to that. I feel like often, um, as adults, just life and living life, we kind of lose sight of our dreams and the things that we really want to do with our life because bills hit, life hit, and we're like, hey, I gotta make this money, right? Like, I want to do the thing that I want to do, but the bills are still here. You might have children, and you never get to like live that dream that you always wanted to live. So, big salute to you. Kudos for completing that. So, tell me about you. Like, tell me about your upbringing.
So yeah, I identify with Abby. I made a 5-year plan. I wrote down my dreams, and then in my 5-year plan, I was like, I want to go to law school. And at that time in my life, I was crawling along at community college, and I give props to community college. My community college in Connecticut, Norwalk Community College, it helped me a lot. The professors were great and dragged me through the basics so I could go to undergrad and actually pursue this. But I just said, like, I wrote this down, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, even if it takes a little bit longer than 5 years. But I was born in Torrington, Connecticut. It's in northwest corner of Connecticut. It's like a small town, and I guess like a nice way of it's beautiful. There's a lot of natural beauty, but there's not a lot of there. There's also like a lot of poverty. There's a joke, they call them Torrington Raggies. There's this like particular type of like mentally ill. There's just drugs and poverty, and there's also a lot of natural beauty and like a lot of that quaint New Englandness in there. But I moved around to like Waterbury, Barkhamsted, if people know these like towns, but
I'm familiar.
I know you do. So, but I say all of that. It's like it can go in like those kinds of places. It can go either way, and I, long story short, got into drugs and addiction, but was very lucky to be able to get sober, and I got sober in Stanford. And I say all this because I think that finally surrounding myself with a community of like really healthy, happy people that actually like rejoice in the struggles and look at it as an asset to push you forward, helped me like even meet like I started nannying for a family that was so kind to me, and they would rearrange their schedules so I could go to community college. And anyway, it was powerful, and they were the ones that were like, you have something really special. And this big, dark, shameful secret in my life is that I went to prison and had been in and out of the Department of Corrections behind my addiction, and like hated myself for it. And then I wanted to nanny for this family, and it was the first time I was like really upfront and honest with an employer, like, look, like, this is what happened. I got out of prison when I was 21. Like, now things are different. I'm sober. I really want to watch your child in your home if you'll let me. And they were like, we want to give you a shot. And it turns out that they were amazing human beings. They're a cardiologist and a veterinarian, and they really believed in education. And they were the ones that paid for my first community college classes.
Oh, that's amazing.
They helped me get a car.
Wow.
Just like, but things that like matter. Like maybe I didn't have air conditioning or whatever the case was, but it helped me get to and from their job. I was able to go to and from school. Those things matter along the way as you're building up towards my 5-year plan of law school, right? Like, being like, what happens when like something happens in your car and it needs to go in the shop and you don't have your mommy or daddy's car to borrow so you can get to work? Like those things along the way like really matter.
Sure.
So anyway, I think what ended up happening when I decided I wanted to go to law school, there was people thought I was crazy, right? Because now I have a record. It seemed I am not the person that seemed like that was tracked for law school, but I knew one other person that was sober and that had also been formerly incarcerated, and he was doing it. And just knowing that one person is what I was like, maybe I can do it too.
That's interesting. I feel like I can relate to both of y'all in a lot of ways because, like, I'm an ex-con, and I grew up in New York City, Harlem, then the Bronx, then Westchester, then Connecticut, and well, I can honestly say when I moved to Connecticut and Westchester, I was in a better environment. But sometimes you're already so affected by the community you grew up in that your mind is stuck,
Yeah.
back in the Bronx or back in Harlem, and made a lot of bad decisions. Went to prison, drug addiction, that led to stint. I guess it led to mental health. Led to a meltdown, a lot of things, and when I came out of prison, I never went back to my old community in the Bronx. I never went back there. All my old community in Harlem. Just I was in a halfway house. I was in a shelter, and I started meeting really influential people. I was home for prison for 13 days, and got a parole violation. I went back there. I got like it was like entrapment. The lady like she did want pretending she wanted to date me for a month for me to get her a bag of weed, and then arrested me for a bag of weed without us exchanging money. So the judge was furious. He's like, "I'm going to throw this out." The parole judge, the other judge was an asshole. He's like, he didn't care. So the parole judge was like, "You're not going to jail regardless. You can fight this and stay here for a couple of months. I'm going to send you home, or you can cop out." And I sent you home. Then me, I'm like, I just want to go home, so I copped out. Hindsight of it, I should have
Yeah.
stuck it to them. But uh, while in parole violation, I met someone that was on the run, and he was doing his last 6 months. He got caught, but when he ran, he happened his bachelor's in Houston, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't like authority. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't commit crimes. This is my only crime in my entire life. But I'm smarter than these parole officers. They're not gonna like come in my house and dictate my life." And I'm like, "Well, you got a lot of balls. Like, you just doing a lot of violations. Like I was just trying to like coast through it, but he's like, and I took the outside, and when I come home after this violation, I'm going to apply to law school. My brain is racing because I'm reflecting on my personal experience and having experiencing mental health and just being in a horrible place and being sent to prison versus rehabilitation. So I always have like that vendetta, like y'all stuck it to me, like y'all should have helped me, and y'all put me in an environment that caused more trauma. So when he had this conversation, it was like, oh, I can do that too, right? Like I can get back, right? I can help people, like this. All right, I'm gonna do that. And like just like you, I never went back to my environment, and I kept meeting who's my reverend now, the individual Reverend Joe, my boxing coach, so many other people that just played the part in shaping my thought pattern and my and driving my ambitions. And when you come out of certain environments and you're no longer influenced by those communities or those people, you find yourself tap into who you actually are, right? You sometimes you never really get to tap into what's inside of you because you're surrounded by so much negativity, and then they're projecting on you, and now you're imitating them, right? And you know that it doesn't feel good, right? Because if it's not right, when it's right, it feels right, right? And you know in your heart, like I'm doing something that like it's cool because everyone else is doing it, but I know it's done right. So that I can relate to both of you guys in that way. So I went to college from a shelter, got housing, got a job, graduated NYU, and now I'm here in law school. All three of us at Brooklyn Law.
Yeah.
So kudos to all of us. Yeah, so I'm just curious, right? Because we all have different narratives. Um, you have being a first generation American, right? Second generation American. Um, growing up where you come from, are you the first generation college student?
Not exactly.
Okay. Okay, great, great.
Yeah.
So coming from where we all come from, where we come from, I'm just curious, like, how did you guys picture an attorney or a professional? Like, what did an attorney, a doctor, or uh, business owner like that professional? What does that look like as a person to you prior to enrolling in law school? Like, what did someone that was of a certain status and professionalism look like to you? And the second part of that question is, how do you compare yourself to that image that you once had, like currently?
I like that question.
Yeah.
So you can go first.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, the only attorneys I knew were public defenders and prosecutors. Oh my god, like that was my vision of it, and like a judge. Like I didn't really know what else that looked like, and I mean, okay, it's like a couple of things. So definitely, I thought you had to have like money and go to a certain school, or I don't know, or look a certain way, and like even with my like it's like stupid stuff. Like even with like I have tattoos and my curly hair. It's like tamed right now. I'm like I don't know what to do with this. Like, do I pull the Spanish curls back? Do I? But really, am I supposed to straighten it? I know we get that. So it's confusing. Like I definitely didn't think with my record it was gonna go that direction, or like you're supposed to go right out of college. And I also get like it's interesting. Wait, so can I really like side story? I also have this like weird thing with my story where I realize like I can pass, especially now, like I look way more socially acceptable. I was like I can smooth by as just like a basic white girl that like listens to Taylor Swift. I'm kind of proud that I feel like I've like leveled up to a point where like I just go through society now and I don't feel like I stick out. But there was a time I can send pictures where I also just didn't, you know, I feel like I just held myself differently. Like there's something when you look at an attorney or a professional, whatever that means, especially for me, like a woman, there's a way you like hold yourself. Like the way they talk. I feel like I couldn't even talk like how they talked at one point in my life.
Yeah.
And I wanted that. And today, like I am kind of proud of myself that like I know how to like dress myself. Like I wasn't really like taught that. How do you dress like nicely? How do you do your hair nicely? How do you talk when you're in like a professional situation? Like those things really mattered to me, and I wanted that. And today I think I can like bring that to the table, and it's also important to see other people that are non-traditional, whatever that means, and like see how they can integrate some of the like grit or their life like into their career, I guess. I don't know. That's what do you think?
No, that's awesome. So going back to Devon's initial question about I got confused between first generation, second generation. So I guess I am kind of first generation because my mom's a nurse, but she doesn't have a bachelor's in nursing. She's an LPN, so she did 18 months.
Okay.
The 18-month program. So I guess I'm first generation college student, me and my siblings. And my dad definitely didn't go to college. So we are first generation college students, my brother and I. And I guess growing up, I only knew one lawyer, who was a family friend. He was actually my parents' immigration lawyer that helped them get a green card.
Okay.
He was Nigerian as well, and my father knew his father, like back in Nigeria. So he kind of did us I don't even know if my dad paid him. He kind of did us a favor. Or did them a favor. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they did get paid, but we were so close as a family that I don't know to what extent, because we didn't have a lot of money when I was young, especially here in America. My parents were on welfare when they first came. Like my mom was on public assistance before she graduated from nursing school and started working. So the first lawyer that I met here that helped my parents get their green card. So really nice guy, very professional, but also we had that bond culturally. Um, so what did I think a lawyer um is? I guess kind of like between Matlock and like he was like an old school lawyer from TV, and the lawyers on Law and Order.
Yeah. Law and Order. Oh my god.
To our family friend that helped my parents apply for political asylum and get their green card. I just saw lawyers as people that advocated for other people, um, and I guess that's kind of what I want to be, an advocate you know, not kind of something that what I really want to be. Want to be an advocate for people that really need it most,
Yeah,
and I want to help.
I respect it.
Yeah.
Respect it. Yeah, so yeah, I can relate to both of you guys. Like, I feel like we all had a similar experience. Like me growing up in the ghettos of New York City, I didn't see many professionals. Period. Right. Like I always went to school downtown. My mother always sent me to the best schools, to be honest. But so I would see other people's families, and I'm like, oh, I guess this guy's a lawyer or a doctor. When I went back to Harlem or the Bronx, it just wasn't next to me. But I feel like I never spent a lot of time thinking about what a lawyer or a doctor or a business owner or like an elite level professional looks like, or what it should look like, because it was just like a world that wasn't of my concern, right? Like
Hmm.
I feel like it just wasn't my place. You know, I feel like I've seen so many people selling drugs and committing crimes, and some people, sports and rappers, and I was like, okay, I'm seeing people doing really good. Like they're having nice cars and homes. So like this is a lane, and I'm very concerned with obtaining success through these avenues. So being a professional just wasn't something I thought of. But for me, that shifted because I got incarcerated and I had a mental health breakdown. I was psychotic and delusional. All my friends abandoned me and family turned their back on me. And I just knew that I didn't have the mental health to experience any more trauma involved in this street life. So I started questioning how do I live a better life? And like I said, that that pivotal moment when I had that conversation with the individual I was incarcerated, that was like, okay, I can do this. So when I came out, I just started volunteering like at Cornell West organization, all these bookstores, all these grassroots organizations, just giving them my time, and I'm just interacting with people, and I'm like, hold on, I can do this, because historically, these spaces were not marketed to young black men from the ghetto, right? Like we were not told that we should be this, right? Like when I cut on the TV, um, and when I went into my community, the information I got was more about entertainment and sports, right,
Yeah.
or crime. So, and looking at it now, looking at myself now, I feel like I had to like similar to you, like I had to learn this, right? Had to learn how not to speak, right? Like how to listen, how to speak, how to dress, respect, just certain levels of integrity and character, and just developing a reputation of being trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
Because in the streets, it's all about cutthroat and getting yours and getting over, right? So just being more honest, right? These are things I had to learn throughout my journey post incarceration, going to undergrad. Having jobs, I've never been fired from employment. I have good relationships with my former employers, and all of them played the part in shaping the person I am today. You learn how to be responsible. So um, I feel like I'm not the traditional professional. I don't know how you guys feel, but I just feel like, but I have so much to offer because I'm not, right. I'm still capable and of doing the job just as good as the traditional professional, but I also know the other side of the fence. So it's like, which I feel gives all of us a competitive edge, right? Like there are things that we can understand and ways we can relate to the people who we will eventually be advocating for that others cannot. And so for me, now that I walk this walk, I'm like, I feel like that's why I want to do these discussions, because we have to get this back, right? Like
Yeah.
there are young men and women, white, black, Hispanic, all over the world,
Yeah.
that think how we once thought, right? And they see this and they're like, hold on, like she's from a small white town in Connecticut. He's from the ghettos of New York City. She's from Nigeria, came to America, immigrant parents, first generation college student. And guess what? These three different walks that may have traditionally never been told, may have never been marketed as they would get the opportunities that they got. They all have it. And they're all in law school. They all have good educations and degrees and teachers and social workers and NYU and Columbia and Brooklyn Law, and they're prospering, right? So it doesn't have to look like what you're being told it looks like, right? You are that professional, right? If you want to be that, and you make repetitive, responsible, smart decisions. So I feel like my next question we kind of answered it. Um but we can just touch on it briefly. Like, do you guys have any concerns or like doubts around being a professional coming from your background? Any? I feel like I can start off while you guys think. Let me start off.
Sure.
So I feel like I once had those concerns and doubts. I felt like having a record, people wouldn't believe in me, dealing with mental health, people would think I was incapable. I was not capable. I would not be able to be responsible or carry the work or handle the workload. But I feel like you test yourself and like I've read so many articles like law school is harder than being a lawyer. I just hope you guys know that, really. Like the amount of shit we read.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that. I heard being like I literally did a paper on this. Going to law school and taking the bars, like I think you taking more information and you put in more time and studying and breaking nights than you probably will as a lawyer, unless you're like certain fields are super demanding. But so I just feel like with time I've tested myself and I just don't have that doubt anymore. I do know my limits though. Like we all have limits, and I feel like being realistic with myself. There's no doubts or any concerns anymore. There's like, okay, um, I operate this way. I handle uh workloads this way, right? Like someone may go from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in a corporate law setting. I'm gonna need a break. Just I need to relax,
For sure.
recharge, and come back. Right? I'm not the go guy. I go, then I come down, then I go, then I come down, and I go. Right? Like so, I know how my brain operates, how my personality operates. I know what triggers me. Right? Like I come from a certain environment. Just being fully transparent, truly transparent. Most black men, coming from the ghetto, going into these traditional white institutions, you deal with microaggressions, right? So it's like I know how to navigate that now, right? Like I'm not gonna let your view that a black person doesn't belong with this position affect me mentally, spiritually, emotionally, right? Like that's your shit. You can own it, and I'll still be kind and wish you the best, right? I'm not gonna let you trigger me. So just know how to just. I feel like law school and these internships that we've done and we're doing, and just holding these positions, they've allowed me to test my limits and know how to navigate. So a lot of my doubts and concerns are gone, but there's very few still. What about you
Mm.
guys?
Um, I definitely think that um, I have some concerns. I have a few concerns. I'm not the traditional law student, like I said earlier, in the sense that right after undergrad, I went to law school. I worked for 16 years before I started law school. And very grateful for the opportunity. I got hired like a week after graduating from undergrad to be a school teacher back in 2007. But having navigated through different schools in the DOE, Devon, you know some of the stories that
Yeah,
I've told you. Um, I figured out that I want to be the change that I want to see.
yeah,
Having worked for different principals and different people, I can tend to be um, a reserved, withdrawn personality. Like I have to kind of know someone and trust them to really open up. I am social. I wouldn't classify myself as an introvert.
sure.
Um, but I just am kind of that type of person. And sometimes people can misconstrue that level of reservation as maybe arrogance or whatever they want to see it as. Um, and people kind of judge you for that. Um, and I have been mistreated in corporate. I don't know if you consider the Department of Education corporate America, but I have been mistreated. I have been ostracized. I have been treated in not the fairest of ways, um, partly because I was misunderstood. So I'm kind of torn between. I know entrepreneurship, like we've talked about it, Devon, is the way to go for me.
I get it.
I've worked under people for the past 17 years. I think that I want to own my own, whatever it is.
Sure.
And I do want to learn how to be a lawyer under someone, but I don't know to what extent I want to do that for a very long time. So I would like to run my own law firm potentially in the future, own my own school potentially in the future,
Respect.
because based on my experience, I know how to treat people when I have power, but not everyone knows how to
Mm.
treat people like me when they have power. Um, so I know that um, I want to be the change that I want to see, pretty much. And that's coming from my experience having worked under people and seeing what different leadership styles look like.
I respect that, and I feel like me and her just had a conversation on me and Annie about a week ago, and I was like, if they don't pay you, pay yourself. So you made me smile when you said that because it's like I just feel like so often we create these narratives around like the big man, right? The hidden hand and
Hmm.
the invisible powers, right? Like we all just people, right? Like no one has the ability to stop you unless you let them stop you, right? Like this, especially in today's time, there's so many different markets to target. So I respect that and I admire that. And I just feel like when you're different, when you're different than traditional, you're going to experience what you experience. Like me, I don't know about you going to Columbia, me going to NYU. There was moments when I felt ostracized. I felt like, oh, these kids are like not letting me in the in group. Like they're not talking to me. Like they're
Yeah.
purposely giving me this energy. And I'm like, okay, I'm not what they may think an NYU student should look like, right? So even being here in the PWI, right? Like there's moments when I feel microaggressions. I'm like, hold on, dude. Like, never said like just take it easy, you know. So I feel like I'm sorry you went through that, but like we gotta like let them deal with that. That's their shit. And as long as we show up and do our job, you know, that's all we can do. And at the end of the day, press that button. It's not long. It's not
Press the
long.
button. Tell me.
EOC. They get crazy because it's something we all experience. You know, people aren't comfortable with change, right? Like a Nigerian person, African American person, a person from a small white poor town, like we don't look like your traditional professional in these old money settings, right? This was a DOE, but I'm talking about in other settings as well, right? Like they just don't. There sometimes people challenge you, right? Especially you when you was assistant principal. You were in a predominantly white school because exposed this to me, so that's why I'm sharing this. So they may have wanted someone like you as an assistant principal in this setting. Now they can't stop you from being an assistant principal if you qualify, you were hired, but you meet backlash. But once again, not everyone has that view, right? Like there are good people everywhere, but there are bad people everywhere too. So yeah. So do you want to share anything?
Um, I think I just want to re-emphasize like that when you said repetitive good decisions.
Yeah.
At least for someone like with being formerly incarcerated, being sober, it was exactly that. I feel like repetitive good decisions is
Yeah.
like a key to getting to where I am today. And yeah, I mean, I identify in other ways. I'm sick of working for people.
Oh yeah.
I just need
Yeah.
to say I'm like tired of it. But if I have a good employer, like I paralegal before law school, and if I have an employer that's willing to have me with my record, I told this man that I was formerly incarcerated, and all he said, well, I want to see your writing. Are you a good writer? And he treated me well. I was like, I need health insurance because I'm also, 32. Like I'm not on mommy and daddy's health insurance.
Respect.
Like I need a job with health insurance,
Yeah.
and if you're gonna bend over backwards and like move for me a little bit, like I will give you
Yeah.
all of myself. And I feel like that's also an asset. Like I'm loyal,
Yeah.
and if people will give me a shot, I want to do that. And the other thing I tell people is like, oh God, I'm scared to reveal X, Y, and Z thing about my past to a new employer. My motto and what I feel like has worked really well for me, I put it out there, and if people don't want me, then fine. But there will be someone that does want me, and then we mesh so much harder. So that's why, same thing, I haven't been fired.
Yeah.
I've had good relationships with every employer, I think, because you know, I get rejected. I don't try to push myself, fit a square peg into a round hole when it comes particularly to my felonies and things like that. If you don't want me, then fine. But the people that do, like, I will continue to be in your life, and we'll help each other out, I guess. And so I'm hoping that's going to translate into law.
I respect that. And I,
We'll
I feel
see what happens.
I feel like that translates into life though. Like I watched an interview with Simon Sinek. I don't know if you guys know. I think it's Simon Sinek. He's a British like business guru. I think he's from the UK. But he said like when people hire him as a consultant to like restructure their business and give them insight and tell them what's not working, right? And then when he walks into a space, he's like, I can't do that.
Hmm.
I'm not a multitasker. I do one thing at a time. He didn't say these words. He's like, I tell people who I am, so you know what you're getting, right? And if I belong there, then I belong there. And if I don't belong there, then I don't belong there. And I feel like your view is the best way to operate because, like, you can't pretend work for so long, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to be transparent, I'm going to be honest. And if this is meant for me, then sky's the limit, you know? But if it's not meant for me, then I shouldn't be there because I'm going to get there and then I'm not going to show up and I'm not going to produce at the levels that I should be producing because I have to pretend, I have to be someone else. And who does well when you're not being yourself? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm from New York City. Like I may it's snowing. I'm definitely gonna come in with my Timberlands and slip into my loafers, right? Like you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying like that's crazy, but I'm just being real. Like I can't pretend like I just can't do it. Like I love sports, I love basketball, I love boxing, right? I can't sit here and act like I know a whole bunch about golf to you because I just know nothing about golf, right? I am very hands on. Emotional when I talk, right? This is me. Like if I have to cover up who I am, of course there's certain levels of professionalism, but if I have to cover up who I am, then it just doesn't work for me. And that's just me. I'm not saying my views work, but that's just me. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really powerful.
yeah.
So to be as transparent as possible, so people know who they're dealing with. I feel like that's a lot what I respect a lot about you and Annie. Actually, I met Annie at a staff interview. One of the faculty, we're in that faculty hiring committee, and I met her under 2 minutes. She's like, "Oh, I was formerly incarcerated." I was like, "Wow, full disclosure."
Yeah.
Just that level of transparency. I don't know why she felt like she needed to tell me immediately, but I kind of appreciated that. It's hard to reject somebody that's so honest to you at from the onset. I was just kind of like, yeah, I like this person.
Yeah, I took her like Andy, so I feel like she wears her heart on her sleeve, kind of, which is cool. At least you know what you're getting, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't get something different later on.
And you're not your record.
One thing, like I have to say, like when I got some advice from an attorney who graduated from Brooklyn Law School, and he said something for non-traditional students like myself. He goes, Annie, he goes, I think what you need to work on is not your spirit of gratitude, but it's your spirit of confidence. Because sometimes I think like my ability to like want to like put it out there, like before you can come for me, just like lay it out there actually becomes like a double-edged sword. Do you know what I mean? Because there's also like I think it's good that I'm open and I live by that and I will never not do that, but it needs to be tempered with this like confidence. I feel like that's the other half of the conversation is like I don't always have to put it out there. Do you know what I mean? There's like a level of like confidence that I'm still trying to build into my career path. Does that make sense? Because like I also am enough based on my record, my GPA, my undergraduate degree. Like I'm also smart aside from that, and like trying to like compartmentalize that. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys.
No,
like
it
I am
does.
more than my past.
I can relate to that, and I feel like my advice to you is just like don't. I feel like I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or anything, but I feel like when people operate like that because it's sitting in your head, like I'm here, somebody's gonna Google me or somebody's gonna
Yeah.
question me or I come off like a thug or I come off like I'm from a rough environment. And I just feel like you don't owe anyone any explanation, number one, right? You don't have to explain to anyone who you are, where you come from, and at the end of the day you're just as qualified as all of us, right? Like you earned your way into law school. Like you got the LSAT score, you had the you come from Columbia, you had the undergrad GPA, right? So I just feel like my tip to you is like get that out of your head that you have to explain that or that you still are that, right? Like that doesn't even matter, right? Like who am I? I'm Annie. I'm from Connecticut. I'm a Columbia grad. I've done these interns. I've done all this social justice work. I've mentored these young women. Like I'm this positive person, right? Who you're probably still growing into, but this is who I am now, right? Like that ex-con is just a part of you. That's just a moment in a long story, you know. So it's like I tell people that like you're gonna define me as what the moment when I was using drugs, the moment when I had a mental health breakdown, the moment I was incarcerated, the moment when I was a high school grad, the moment when I got into NYU, the moment when I was in the shelter, the moment when I had 4 cars. Like which moment are you gonna define me as? And I just feel like my answer to that is none, right? Because I'm multiple moments, right? Like my life is made up of multiple moments, right? So my story is continuous, right? So yes, I'm the ex-con. Yes, I was a drug addict. Yes, I had sold drugs. Yes, I've been to prison, but guess what? I've also been a mentor in my community for over a decade. I've belonged to a church for many years. I've done work for so many churches, so many grassroots organizations. I've given so much money and time to charity. I've inspired so many people, right? So I feel like you have to accept your identity as a whole and not just a fraction of your story, right? Like that ex-con just a fraction.
Yeah, that's very powerful. I think, and sometimes, in addition to, and I think it stems from the fear of maybe not wanting to be judged, right? Because I feel like sometimes when I disclose things first, right, that may not be so great about myself, or I think isn't so great about myself. Let's say, um, a prior work experience that wasn't so great on an interview. I'll say, you may not want to call this principal as a reference because they'll say XYZ. So I'll tell you first before you even call that they're going to say XYZ.
That's right, that's right.
And that's stemming from that insecurity of
Exactly.
not knowing if this person is going to call, right? So I want to control the narrative before that other person does. So like you said, we all have these awesome experiences and all the different aspects of our lives that are good, right? So yeah. But sometimes, it is like, I think it's fine to say, tell people, but you just have to, like, I feel like we kind of have to know um, who we're telling, right? And for what reason.
I agree.
Because there's so many other aspects of our lives, I think.
I respect that. So, last question: do you guys want to share anything about your future endeavors, entrepreneurial ideas, or any ways people to get in contact with you? If you don't want to, you don't have to do that as well. You want to put yourself out there, you can mention it, and when the video drops, I'll like have your IG or whatever you want under your name. So if you want to share, you can share it. Do you want to?
Yeah, so I'm not that big on Instagram. I don't even know. Hold on, I am on Instagram, but I don't know what my personal IG is. That's so weird. Maybe you can help me. You know what? My email is ebereosu@gmail.com. So if anyone wants to look me up anyone wants to send me an email, you can email that address. Or on LinkedIn, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, EBERE, last name OSU on LinkedIn. In terms of my future endeavors, so I'll be interning for the Bronx DA's office this summer. So that's something that I'll be doing in the summertime. And I still have one more year of law school. I'm graduating May of 2025, hopefully. Um, and yeah, potentially get a job as a lawyer first year, associate at some law firm. And yeah, that's my plan so far.
I feel like I'm such a baby law school student, so I'm still solidifying what I'm gonna do this summer. But I'm a finalist for the New York City Bar Diversity Fellowship. Fingers crossed, we're because I want to try to break into big law and do something corporate and transactional, and so because you don't really see people from where I come from working in those kinds of spaces. But yeah, that's it.
Respect that. So my you can find me on the Instagram at D as in dog, T as in Tom, H as in Harry Global. So that's DTH Global. My LinkedIn, Davon Harris. Expect more of these with different people, just talking about overcoming adversity and just showing you different narratives of success and um what is overcoming addiction, overcoming incarceration, or whatever. I just want to just show you that the narrative does look different and you can win. And me, I'm in my last semester of law school. I take the July bar. My goal is yeah, it's a lot. My goal is to get into sports entertainment law. Like I see a lot of young men in sports and entertainment that I'm like, that I know that mistake you made, because I was there, and I just feel like not only can I be an attorney, but I can be a mentor for a lot of young men and women, and just like help them make better decisions and get dope ass deals, right? Like I want to get you the best contract, right? So if you want to reach out to me, if you have a sports entertainment law firm and you want to take me under your wing and show me the ropes, you know where to find me. I appreciate you guys for coming to this. This is the Happy Room. It's all about overcoming adversity. See you in the next one.